Excuse me. Hello. Was that rude? Too bad. It happened. We're doing it anyway. That's right. Every body chapter 10, The Lovers of Paul Foster Case's The Darrow, a key to the wisdom of the ages. Excuse me. Zane, Z value 7, means sword or a weapon, suggesting the antithesis of Vav, the nail, because a sword cleaves, cuts, divides, separates, diversity, contrast, antithesis, excuse me. I thought I spoke partial tongue. Distinction, and therefore discrimination, are some of the related ideas. Discrimination implies nice perception, acuteness, sharpness like a sword's edge, sagacity, and so on. Excuse me. I just realized I didn't get the card out today. As some of you may know, I have just the major arcana in large cards and a regular deck in small cards. Now, as it turns out, I'm a lazy dude sometimes, and I didn't actually finish. I had to pause for a second. I forget where I was. I did not get the larger card painted up, but I did get the little one. Again, with my little embellishments, you can see the sun rays are not quite what you would find on your average card. But anyhow, back to the chapter. Smelling is the sense attributed to Zane. In the Book of Formation, the sense of smell has been always associated with keen perception and sagacity. I don't know what that word means. Sage fucking city. An old Kabbalistic maxim says, properties are discerned by the nose. Our everyday speech has a number of phrases like smell out to suggest approach to truth. East above, the direction assigned to Zane, is the line bounding the east side of the top of the cube of space, and joining the top face above Mercury to the eastern face, east, Venus. This line, moreover, joins the top of the vertical line northeast, Emperor, to the top of the vertical line southeast, the Hierophant. A combination of east and above suggests the working together of the subconscious power of creative imagination and the self-conscious power of acute discrimination. Listening to yourself and deciding that that is not actually a tiger. That's just you imagining things. All right. Gemini, the twins, is the zodiacal sign attributed to Zane. The name of this sign suggests duality, division, and other other ideas related to the meaning of the letter. It is difficult to tell twins apart, and to do so requires nice discrimination. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, key 1, the magician, sometimes personified in Egyptian mythology as the jackal-headed Anubis. Ooh, he's the dude who weighs your hearts. That's interesting. I don't see any references to a heart on here. What are oranges? Oranges, like man and God coming together. I'm just making a joke. Discernment and sagacity, because Anubis representing discernment and sagacity because of the jackal's keen sense of smell. Gemini governs the lungs, collarbones, shoulders, arms, and hands, all in pairs. Gemini people are said to be given to inquiry, investigation, and experimentation. They often engage in mental pursuits. In our color scale, Gemini is represented by orange. The corresponding musical tone is D natural. Gemini is a common sign of the airy triplicity. It's a mutable air sign. Disposing intelligence is the mode of consciousness assigned to the letter Zane. To dispose is literally to place a part, to arrange, to distribute, to apportion. Whoa. Apportion? Apportion? The fuck is apportion? I've never heard that word before. I love this book. I'm learning so much. To divide. thus analysis, implied by the meanings of the letter name sword. Classification, organization, preparation, and adjustment are all related to this mode of consciousness. This it is which shows itself in our disposition, and one's disposition can be modified by right discrimination. You get offended by things. It's your problem. The Lovers is the usual title. Some pseudo-occultists call this picture the two paths, and say older versions of the symbolism show a man standing between two female figures representing virtue and vice. This is wholly erroneous. In old exoteric versions of tarot, there are three figures, a youth and a maiden facing a crowned woman. These are the Kabbalistic son and bride combined with the Kabbalistic mother or queen. The design, aside from its deeper meaning, has obvious reference to marriage. The title intimates the union of opposite but complementary modes of existence. It is also closely related to disposing intelligence, disposition, affections, temperament, idiosyncrasies, propensities. All of these are related to the word love, as well as to the occult meaning of key 6. Each card is like just a stacked list of meanings. Depending on how you code data, you're going to find a way to understand the cube. Our version is essentially the same as Dr. Waite's, and both are based on the unpublished Esoteric Tarot. We have been at times, we have been at some pains to clarify certain minor obscurations, but otherwise the symbolism is the same. The sun overhead has the same general significance as that behind the Fool. It is the great light source, the dynamo of radiant energy, whence all creatures derive the personal forces. Here it is yellow or golden instead of white, to show that it is our day star, the actual physical sun, whence we draw not only energy and life, but also, says Ageless Wisdom, potential consciousness. The sun is not merely a center of physical force, a thing in the sky. It is the body of a being. Well, fires can be passed along now, can't they? You must create your own flames. Be thy own star. Oh, that sounds like the Lamer. I guess they were onto something. Fucking. The sun is not really... The angel is Raphael, angel of air, the element attributed to Gemini, and in the symbolism of the Roman Church, the particular angel of the planet Mercury. He is also the great archangel of the eastern quarter of the heavens, east above. Here he represents superconsciousness, and thus is related also to the Fool. His arid nature is indicated by the color of his skin. The yellow we have associated with air and with Mercury. His violent garments carry out the same idea. Because violet is the color complement of yellow, another indication of his airy nature is the fact that he is supported by clouds. He is the cosmic life breath, prana, superconsciousness. His influence descends on both figures below, streaming from his unpraised hands. If you gotta look up Frater Xavier on there. He has a nice little series on the tarot, and he talks about this card at some point when he talks about the subconscious, and I forget this other dude's name, but if you look on the card, you see how the angel is looking down at both of them, and the woman is looking up at the angel, but the man is looking at the woman. It creates a kind of direction. It has to do with you listening to your subconscious. The mountain in the background combines several meanings. Mountains are symbols of the abode of the gods. Consider Sinai, Olympus, Meru, Fujiyama. Again, they suggest climbing, aspiration, the possibility of attainment. We all have peaks to climb and the incentive to action. The disposing element in our consciousness which leads to volition has always in the background this idea of climbing above our present level. Thus the mountain represents what alchemists call the great work. Again, a mountain is often a phallic symbol of pregnancy or gestation, suggesting preparation, organization, and like ideas we have already developed in connection with the letter Zane. Billy Zane, the Phantom. The man at the right of this key is Adam, the namer of things and tiller of the soil. He is also the magician of Terra. Behind him is a tree bearing 12 fiery fruits. These are the signs of the zodiac, and each flame is triple. Because astrologers subdivide every sign into 3 parts or decadents. Thus, the tree behind the man is the tree of human life, and its fruits represent the 12 main types and 36 subtypes of personality or self-conscious life expression. So how many fruits does it take for a meal? We know we have all the planets in our fucking chart. The woman at the left is Eve. She is also the high priestess and the empress. Behind her is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It bears 5 circular fruits, the 5 senses. Up the tree climbs the serpent of sensation, because temptation arises from subconscious memory of sensation, or from suggestions based thereon. The serpent is also a symbol of wisdom and of redemption. Moses' serpent in the wilderness. Some people say it's also kind of a symbol of like actual electricity, like juice, power. Because wisdom and liberation result from the right adaptation of the very forces which at first tempt us into mistaken action. Thus, Dr. Waite says, the suggestion in respect of the woman is that she signifies that attraction towards the sensitive life which carries within it the idea of the fall of man. But she is rather the working of a secret law of providence than a willing and conscious temptress. It is through her inputted lapse that man shall rise ultimately, and only by her can he complete himself. The beast with 2 backs. In practical psychology, the lesson of the picture is plain. The woman looks towards the angel, the man towards the woman. The self-conscious intellectual mind, although it is the determining factor in personal consciousness, does not become directly aware of superconsciousness. Self-consciousness, as the symbolism of Key 1 shows, does receive and transmit the powers of superconsciousness, but conscious awareness of the nature of those powers comes from careful observation of the activities of subconsciousness. Powers are developed within, and the subconscious within is the woman. From that within they are educated or drawn forth in response to self-conscious impulses, and their manifestation is in the field of self-consciousness, the without. Development comes by response of the inner to the outer. It is the answer of woman to man that peoples of the world. That peoples the world. Woo! That populates the world. Yes, women allowing men to have sex with them is what makes babies. Congratulations, you figured it out, Tara. It is the response of the interpreting subconsciousness to the observing self-consciousness that peoples the thought world with ideas. He uses people's funny here, it's catching me. That populates the thought world with ideas. This is a basic law of mental development. Its constructive operation depends on the discriminative exercise of self-conscious powers. Personal happiness, health, and success depend on harmonious cooperation of these 2 modes of mental activity. To secure this harmony, we must understand that both are expressions of a power superior to either. We must see also that subconsciousness is the mode which, in response to suggestions originated and framed by self-consciousness, brings us into personal relationship with the superior power. Furthermore, the relationship between self-consciousness and subconsciousness should be one of loving intimacy. Hence the 2 figures are nude. They veil nothing from each other. This is not the state of affairs with most people. Too often, self-consciousness and subconsciousness are not on speaking terms. Consciously, we accept this or that idea. Subconsciously, we seek realization of its opposite. To correct this error, to establish harmony between these 2 phases of personality, is to have clear, unmixed, unadulterated desires. I want a sandwich! Again, since love is the ideal relation between the 2 modes of consciousness, this picture warns us against any attempt to bully or coerce subconsciousness. Persuade a subconsciousness, and it will do anything for you. Endeavor to drive it harshly, and you will set into operation the law of reversed effort, so that you get a result just the opposite to that which you aim. Yes, it shouldn't be difficult. You shouldn't be struggling to throw your punch. Discrimination, then, is the key to the establishment of happy cooperation between the two modes of personal consciousness. The burden falls on self-consciousness because it is the framer of suggestion. If it be careless and lax in observation or harsh in driving and giving commands to subconsciousness, the results are destructive. On the other hand, if self-conscious intellect perceives the true relation among the three modes of consciousness as symbolized in Key 6, it will be able to frame a series of suggestions which will make it the recipient of superconscious guidance through the agency of subconsciousness. Yes, we stand in the middle. We must be balanced. All that is necessary is to formulate suggestions embodying the idea that subconsciousness can and does receive the influence from above, that it can and does reflect that influence to self-consciousness. Frame suggestions like these in words of your own, study the picture and find words to express its meanings in a formula of auto-suggestion. Your own words are best and have the most power. You will be amazed and delighted with the results. I will be mostly delighted with the results, not so much with the amazed. I think I'm still reaching one of those levels. They're called echelons. What's the next evolution? What's the next name? Questions for inquiring minds. Somebody get me a sandwich.